Okay, we are live now. Okay.
I see a few people that are joining us right now. Our numbers are slowly going up, and I don't want to take up too much more time because Kassy and Esmerelda have some fantastic information to share with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to let you two introduce yourselves and get started with your presentation.
Thanks, Heather. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to share about our pathways to inclusive practices, preschool, elementary, and beyond. We're from Orange Unified School District. My name is Kassy Makena, and I'm one of the coordinators in the special education department.
And welcome everybody. My name is Esmerelda Ramos, and I am the special education TOSA.
So today we are going to share about our supporting inclusive practices journey. We're going to share some specifics about our program design, about supports that we have embedded in our programming, about some outcomes we're proud of, and leave some time for questions or comments as well. A little bit about Orange Unified School District, or OUSD as we like to call it. We're a pretty large district. We have preschool programs here in OUSD. We have 27 elementary schools. We have 3 middle schools that are part of our SELPA and our district, and we have a few high schools as well. So a lot of, the full continuum of programming. We serve infants all the way up to young adults age 22 years old. So let's start with our program design.
All right, so here we have Orange Unified Pre-K, or as we here in the district call it, OPK. And OPK is a program that serves our infants aged 0 to 2 and also our students who are 3 to 5. And the student population is composed of typical peers and also a continuum of students with disabilities. And overall, the goal of OPK is education for all our students in an inclusive environment, immersed in a language-rich, universally designed, data-driven program that engages our students in social and meaningful activities to prepare them for their K-12 educational journey. Therapeutic interventions are embedded into the program and are available to all the students who participate in our OPK program. And of course, these include speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, adaptive physical education, among all the other services. OPK program is unique because we use peer-mediated interventions. So OPK usually involves typically developing peers to build upon the skills of our delayed peers. And again, this is done in an inclusive environment using a variety of strategies. OPK also uses the innovative preschool learning foundations to guide their educational planning for students across vocation, social, emotional, and also academic domains. And then finally, OPK uses the Early Childhood Inclusive Education Checklist, a self-assessment of best practices as a guide to implement inclusive practices every day in their school day, through play-based learning, as we can see in these pictures. We are a thinking maps district, so our students are exposed to circle maps and tree maps for math and English language arts.
Okay, as our kiddos transition out of our preschool environment, of course, they go next to our elementary programming. We have students TK through 6th grade, all accessing inclusive programming. Some pillars of that inclusive programming, of course, is universal design for learning. That's really important here in Orange Unified. It's something that is trained on, coached on, discussed on a regular basis. Last year it was really exciting. We invited all of our principals to attend a UDL training with us as a special education department. And there was such high participation and really high engagement. It led to great conversations, throughout the district as something that we really believe in and that we will continue to work on throughout, all of our programming here in Orange Unified. We're a data-driven district. That's really a focus of our elementary programming, whether that's, of course, for driving goal areas, monitoring progress, how we serve students best, things like that. It's something we talk about, we train on, we coach on a lot. Is that really effective data to drive interventions and supports for our students? Another really important component of our inclusive programming here in our elementary setting is a focus on SEL. So as you can see in one of the photos, you see a student accessing or working with a zones of regulation poster. It's a curriculum that we have throughout all of our programming here in Orange Unified. It's something, again, that we train on, we work with teams on, we work with teachers on, and it's something that is important to gen ed and students with disabilities. So it's something that's been really supportive here, that common language, common curriculum, to support the needs of our kiddos. We also work with a classroom best practices checklist that was adapted from Captain. So it's a great tool for our teachers. You see it down kind of in the lower right of your screen here. All of those are hyperlinks for our folks. So if it's something that they want to work on themselves, right, we're always reflecting as educators and as professionals, and how do we improve our practices for our kiddos. We sometimes need friendly reminders or accessing those great best practices, EBPs, evidence-based practices. So we created that, inspired by Captain, for our teachers to use. It's that common language that, is really important amongst our programming. And something that's really important for us as well is student empowerment and that natural peer support. So here you can see kiddos working together. You see gen ed students, you see students with disabilities, you see small group instruction happening here. Like Esmerelda already mentioned, you see thinking maps, which we are a thinking maps district, but that is used in preschool all the way up. So it's that kind of great commonality, right? And if a kiddo attends our preschool and then goes into an elementary programming, it's a kind of a little leg up, something that they're already an expert in, that kind of facilitates the thinking, that those visuals, that organized learning. And you can also see examples of tech here. And what's important to us in OUSD is not just tech in isolation, but using tech to facilitate that learning, whether it's with a peer, or you can see a kiddo using a whiteboard here as well, really supporting that learning with those great tools, but making it engaging and accessible to all of our students.
Kassy, we do have a question from the chat asking us, what is that checklist at the bottom?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I mentioned. It's based on a recommendation from Captain, and it's evidence-based practices, a classroom checklist that we use.
And I see one more question about the peer mediated support and whether or not you guys can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yes, we will go into that in a few slides coming up. So we'll elaborate more then.
Absolutely, but it's kind of that great idea of students working together, right? Students with and without disabilities, working, teaching each other, guiding each other, having that educational experience together that is so valuable. We want to capitalize on the fact that kids love to learn with other kids, right? Not necessarily adults as much, right? So how do we use those to help all of our students grow, right? Students with disabilities, students without disabilities. We have a high population of English learners here in Orange, so that as well. And how do we use those great peer relationships to help them continue to progress?
And we also have one more question. What is Captain?
Oh, it's you could look it up. It's a group that focuses on best practices and strategies for autism.
The California Autism Professional Training and Informational Network.
Thanks, Heather.
All right, so our secondary program includes our middle to high school age students, and co-teaching has been a focus for the past 10 years. So what it is a general education teacher and our education specialist, they co-plan together. They participate in co-teaching PLCs and collaborate with service providers in order to deliver a visually rich, differentiated data-driven instruction to our students. So you could see here from our pictures, we have our two teachers in the classroom, and of course they incorporate thinking maps. So we use this from our preschool program all the way to secondary, our thinking maps to facilitate that learning for our students. They also provide small group instruction with accommodations and supports for all our students. And they also use technology to facilitate that learning. So we use a lot of varieties to help facilitate that co-teaching. And co-teaching is of great importance to our district because a new position was created to support co-teaching. So we have a general education co-teaching TOSA, who along with our special education department facilitates and supports the continued implementation and the improvement of our co-teaching classrooms in middle school and high school. Also, our program provides multiple vocational assessment options to our students and our teachers to create that personalized course of action based on a student's strengths, desires, and dreams, of course, to ensure post-secondary success. So students work with their teachers to create transition plans to ensure not only that they will be able to function as adults in the community once they leave high school and graduate, but also increase the likelihood that they will pursue that post-secondary education. Again, student empowerment and that natural peer support has been a priority for us in our secondary setting. And just like Orange Pre-K and our elementary programming, students with and without disabilities work together to build upon each other's skills. And in the next slide, we are going to review some more examples of how we facilitate this and how we encourage this in our district. There we go. So here we have our beautiful students from our district from Orange Unified, and there's some examples. So one of the reasons why we want to encourage peer support or that natural peer support is because we also want to decrease our students' dependency on an adult. Students from our more restrictive setting, when they travel over, and they make their journey into, the general education environment, most of the times they bring support with them. What we want to facilitate is that collaboration between students with disabilities and the general education peers in their classroom and build those friendships. So this approach has great benefits for all our students, but in particular for our students with disabilities, we have increased academic, social, and behavioral skills. We also have, our students have increased achievement of their IEP goals and greater access to the general education environment and to the curriculum. Natural peer support also benefits our students without disabilities. Again, it's those meaningful friendships that are created. They have greater academic outcomes, but also our students without disability have that increased understanding of acceptance and diversity, which is great for when they are out in the community. So now we're going to go into some of these pictures. In picture number 1, we have a 6th grade student from a more restrictive setting participating in our VAPA program. And our VAPA program is our Visual and Performing Arts program, which is for our 5th and 6th graders. And the student with disability is working together with a typical 6th grade peer on a reader's theater activity. So what the teacher shared with us was that, they were partnered together, they were given the same role, and together they've been working on memorizing their lines. And this is the day that they're going to present to all their peers in that VAPA group. So it was really great to see, a student in a more restrictive setting actually pick to do a reader's theater, and they both enjoyed it and they both were having fun. In picture number 2, we have 2 second grade students, of course, one with an IEP and one without, and they are working on a math lesson using Minecraft education. And again, the students are provided, accommodations and support. So we're not only technology in isolation, we're embedding other strategies. So together they are problem solving, they are building their math skills and working on social emotional skills such as turn taking, which is great for our students, especially when in those lower grades, when they're still developing, those social emotional skills. Picture number 3. We have a student who is legally blind working with a typical peer. The teacher just finished a lesson on using arrays to represent multiplication. And they both, again, they're provided with supports that they need. Visuals, manipulatives. The student has those dark markers in order to be able to do like darker circles for the arrays. And they're working together they're working together, and both of them are building on this new skill that they just learned. We're going to skip over to picture number 4. And here in this picture, we have 2 7th grade students. And the student with an IEP is working on an informational writing assignment. And writing is a non-preferred activity for the student. And the 7th grade peer is acting as a scribe. So what is a scribe? Is just he's listening to what his classmate is telling him, and he's writing down on a piece of paper what she is contributing to this writing assignment. So again, the student is orally dictating all the information she has learned from her readings to her classmate. And this is such a great example of breaking down the barriers for our student. The student did not need to get pulled by a paraprofessional or the education specialist to work on her assignment. Instead, she is working together with a peer, and they're both working on different skills. We have the picture here with 2 boys looking at a book. So here we have a student with an IEP and a general education peer. And in this picture, the student with the IEP is actually supporting his peer who struggles with reading. Comprehension and reading is an area of strength for the student with an IEP. And now he is using his strength to support a peer in his classroom. And this is amazing. Peer supports allow our students with disabilities also to shine. They are normally on the receiving end. So they're usually the ones receiving support, but we have many occasions from elementary all the way to secondary with the students who have the IEP, and we hone into their strengths supporting their peers, which is amazing. And then we have picture number 5. If you could see, we have a student with playing golf. So here we have a student from a more restrictive environment who is an athlete in his high school golf team. And he really enjoys playing, and his teammates enjoy having him on the team. And again, what another great example of breaking down these barriers for our students. He's really a valued member of his high school golf team, and they all again are collaborating and working together, and they're doing something fun, in a school sport. So these are just some examples. I mean, I wish we had the whole day to just share with you, how we are really facilitating this peer support in our classrooms and supporting our teachers and our students with peer support.
Heather, I think you wanted to pause for some questions, right?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions in the
Absolutely.
Q&A section. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the very first question that asks, what kind of students, level, disability, etc., with disabilities are included in the co-teaching model?
So it's not going to be specific to any certain level or marker or any disability category. It's a decision made through the IEP team, including parents, ed specialists, case manager, and any other service providers and administrators on what setting would be best for a kiddo to make progress, right? Make personal progress. So any type of kiddo can be included in our co-teaching model.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kassy. Here's the second question. Is your inclusion program throughout your entire district or just at a select set of schools?
Great question. It is throughout our entire district. So it's everywhere in Orange Unified, from our youngest students all the way to our oldest students. One tidbit I will give though as a tip, as we had a really wonderful preschool inclusion program that did not continue to the elementary program. This was a long time ago, but as we made that intentional, purposeful decision to scale up our inclusive programming, with the support, of course, from our cabinet level to, our director and throughout everyone, administration throughout the district, and parents, of course, huge key player there. We scaled up 1 year at a time. So we started with students transitioning from our preschool program to our kindergarten, and then we continued 1 year up. But we've been doing it for long enough now, and we already had co-teaching at the secondary level at that time. So now we have filled our gaps. So we have it all grades and at every single one of our schools.
We have 5 questions in the Q&A right now, but I'd really like you to carry on with your presentation. So maybe these can be held off until just a little bit later so we can keep going.
Of course, that sounds great. Thanks. Okay, so next we're going to go into our program supports. And we are going to start with how we support our teachers. So in order to have a really successful inclusion program, we believe that we have to embed those supports. So anytime there's a question or any kind of hurdle, we have those experts and, those coaches to support that need right on the spot. So nothing needs to linger, right? Let's embed it. We're really intentional about it. So something that has been wonderful with Orange Unified is a commitment to supporting this programming. So that starts with our instructional coaches. And these are experts. They are all teachers who believe in our inclusive vision and our inclusive program, who support all of our teachers, our staff, our instructional assistants. It could be service providers, anyone who is supporting these programs throughout our district. So that is something that is really, really important, I think, to this practice, because it gives that support when it's needed, right in time to, not let things linger and to embed those experts and another set of eyes and all those benefits that come out of a program like that. So that's something that's been really wonderful and important. We've had, of course, virtual sessions. We hold in-person meetings. We provide trainings, our coaches do, all throughout the district. So really they can help with anything that comes up, whether it's, working with a teacher, an instructional assistant, a student directly, maybe they're going to model something, but that is available to our teachers at any time. They know that they can request it, they can reach out to any of us, and we'll make sure they get the support that they need. Another really important piece we do is that we hold meetings monthly with all of our education specialists in Orange Unified. So we do that at the secondary level, and we also do that at the elementary level. And we review things that need to be reviewed. We, train on certain pieces. We collaborate. It's a really important time to work together as a team, to collaborate with each other, to share those great ideas, and to make sure that we're all aligned with the vision and how we support our students here in Orange Unified. Another piece that Esmerelda mentioned earlier was those co-teaching PLCs. That has been really exciting this year. Kind of an added layer of support at that secondary level, where we have a general education TOSA and one of our special education coaches working together to support those secondary teams with their co-teaching practices, both general education and special education teachers. It's really purposeful. They do walkthroughs, they get feedback, they try things, they get coaching on it, and it's just a great way to continue to refine our practices. Some other things we do that I think is really important is we hold special education boot camps. So that's really right in the beginning of each school year, and any new hire to Orange Unified, any new teacher, we invite for a series of meetings where, we teach them all about the ways of Orange Unified. Of course, our inclusive practices is a really important component of that, but also best practices relating to IEPs or the curriculum that we have here and how you can use it. What are the opportunities to accommodate it? How do we do best practices for assessments? How do we collect data and analyze it? What behavior supports do we have, right? All those kind of pieces. And we want to make sure our new teachers, our new employees to Orange Unified are trained right off the bat and have those tools and tips, and also a connection for someone to reach out to if they have a question. It really helps facilitate that in, kind of their new years as a teacher here. Another piece we do is what we like to call our SPED office hours. So twice a month, we just have open hours that they know that our coaches will be available, and coordinators as well if they'd like to meet with the coordinator. No appointment necessary, just drop in. You can come virtually, you can come in person, and we can help work through anything that you might like, some feedback or to collaborate on. We want to make sure that the staff has as much support as they need. So we make it available to them twice a month in a very open forum, and anyone is welcome to come to collaborate and connect. Another thing that we do here in Orange to support our teachers is professional development. You can see kind of an example here with zones of regulation, and a mention here of Orton Gillingham and reading. So we continue to work with and train and refresh all those best practices that we have embedded here in Orange Unified. That really all of this is to support the success of our students. One last piece that has been neat, something that Orange Unified has done too, is connecting to wellness forums that have been available to all teachers, general education and special education. We want to make sure we're supporting the wellness of teachers, because that directly connects to what they are able to do and provide for the wellness and effective instruction of students. So it's been a commitment at the district level to offer that to all staff, so that they can, of course, then, lend that to the support of our students and the progress and the success that they have as well.
All right, so we also provide supports for our instructional assistants, and our instructional assistants truly are teachers' heroes. Without our paraprofessionals, we would not be able to do our job effectively. So for this reason, we strive to provide our paraprofessionals with coaching, support, and learning. So our paras have access to professional development as well. So they have access to an e-learning platform with over 140 self-paced courses, and it's called the Master Teacher. And they can, complete these courses, always go back and refer to it whenever they need it to. We also have a website dedicated to our paraprofessionals that has an abundance of resources. We also provide them with, data collection support. So the special education department provided iPads to all our classrooms. And of course, we support our teachers and our instructional specialists on how to effectively implement the use of technology in their classroom to support the learning, but also how to collect data on the iPad. To drive, data is important for our IEP writing and to drive those meaningful IEP goals so our students make success. So that's one way also that we're supporting teachers and instructional assistants. We have academic and behavior support modeling for our instructional assistants again. So our instructional coaches also support our paraprofessionals. So we have, what we do is we go out to the classroom and we model for them social emotional strategies, reading strategies, math, everything that they could possibly need in order to effectively support our students in an inclusive environment. We do. In the pictures here, you can see we have in the right-hand corner, we have an instructional assistant doing a small group instruction in an inclusive environment. And of course, the coach is there, observing, and they are able to provide feedback on the spot and guidance for our instructional assistants. So we really want to, give them a great give them great tools and strategies they can use every day with their students. All right, so now our service providers. So in order to support inclusion in our district and really make improvement and keep it going, we have to also provide support for our service providers. So they have monthly meetings with their administrator, and each stakeholder receives the exact same messaging. So we're all on the same page and we know, what's our end goal for our inclusive environment. So again, we do have those monthly meetings with them too. Our service provider also have access to our special education website, and our special education website has a tab for each service provider that a student with an IEP works. We have, a tab for adaptive PE, for our education specialists also, it's elementary and secondary, our psychologists, OT and PT. Every service provider has a tab on this website. And again, it has so many resources available to them. We offer professional development to our service providers. So we give them opportunities to attend professional development on how to, do legally defensible assessments and writing legally defensible goals. And one of the things that has been also of importance with our district is that equity-based practice for assessment. So we're sure that we're supporting our second language learners and not over-identifying. So they have all these great opportunities that they can attend. One of the things that is fairly new to our district, and it was just implemented last year, was our TOSA's PLC. So I know we had a question earlier of what is a TOSA, and a TOSA is a teacher on special assignment, but there's also what we call a POSA, which could be like a psychologist on special assignment, or a SOSA, which is a speech pathologist on special assignment. So what they are there are teacher leaders. They are the ones, who really are out there, collaborating with the leaders from other departments. And then we go out into the school sites to support. So what we do is we have these monthly meetings with all the staff on special assignments. And, we have great conversations and meaningful conversations. We set goals for each other. We also do like action items in order to support our students out in our district. As we mentioned earlier, our inclusive program is from preschool all the way to secondary. So we definitely want to make sure, that we're out there and we're really setting goals, because, we always have room for improvement. So this is something, that has been really great for our department. And actually for all the departments, because we also have, the English language learner TOSA, the math TOSA, the language arts TOSA. So it is a form of collaboration.
Okay, so is this a good time for us to take a few more questions?
Yes.
There's a lot of really great questions in our question and answer. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll read through a few, and then we can move forward and we'll read through the rest of them at the end. The first one is, do preschool classrooms have both a general education teacher and ed specialist for co-teaching?
Okay, so our preschool programs have one teacher. It is a teacher with a special education credential, but they also have the early childhood units as well. They do collaborate with other, gen ed teachers of the same age students within our district. And we are looking at options for that in the future as well. So it's something we're actively working on.
All right, great. So the next one is, my district utilizes different curriculum in middle and elementary schools, for example, Eureka Math and Big Ideas Math. To promote effective inclusion, would you suggest looking into maintaining the same curriculum authors throughout grade levels, or can different curriculums be complemented by consistent supports like the thinking maps you described?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those learning tools like thinking maps for all students, all programs, is a really nice kind of common language. So regardless of what programming a student is accessing, that they have those same skills. We do have alternative curriculums for specific things, but I think in an inclusive program, it's nice to have one curriculum that your teacher and staff are really well versed in accommodating and or modifying, right? But maybe for specific goal work areas like that, having something specific to meet that need would be beneficial as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Allison asks, how can peers help students who have significant engagement challenges to focus, pay attention, and engage?
It's a good question. Esmerelda, you can jump into if you want. But for me, at least in responding to this question, I think kids are typically more engaged when they're working with other kids, right? So engaging them in their learning, making it really fun, really interactive, right? If we don't have engagement, then it doesn't matter how wonderful your lesson is, a kiddo isn't going to access it, right? So using that peer relationship and motivation to work on things together, to learn together, and of course, designing it to be really fun and engaging, a core component of UDL is really going to support that need.
And I would also like to add to that, you know, as our teachers too, they're the first ones to model for our students for peer support, right? So they're the ones who are actually at first exposing our students to these type of strategies. How can we get engagement? But of course, you know, just in a classroom, an education specialist might use like a task analysis where they write what the students need to complete. Our students doing peer support still need that. You know, they still need that guidance to know what is, you know, where they start their task and where they need to end. But I do agree with Kassy, you know, when we do see increased engagement, when it's peer support, because they're working with each other, it's the students not saying, well, I'm working with the paraprofessional again. Oh, I'm going to go work, you know, with Mrs. Ramos again. No, it's actually that they're supporting each other. And of course, you know, as they're working through their assignments, you know, they're having little side conversations that well, and it builds, you know, that's what we say, it's like those meaningful friendships, and they find out things about each other. So we have said we do see increased engagement with, you know, when we pair peers with each other.
Awesome, thank you so much. So we'll just do one more question. So the question is, can students on two different types of curriculums, alternative versus general education, be in the same classroom and learn together?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We see it regularly here. But I think it would be important to note that, of course, we would want to expose everyone in the class to the same really great direct instruction, best practices together, and then possibly look at accessing that alternative curriculum, maybe when they're doing independent work or with other students who might be accessing that as well in a small group. But we want to make sure that everybody is getting that same exposure and that same great teaching as a foundation for each lesson.
Awesome. And you know what? I think I'll do one more question. This is a great one. How did you get the support of executive cabinet or board?
That is a great question. It was something I think that was worked on and discussed at that level for a long time with a lot of research and evidence and outcomes. And, you know, we have a wonderful cabinet here. We have a great board. We have wonderful vision within the department from our leaders as well. And they were all on the same page and helped to support, you know, I would say an initiative, but now it's just part of our district. So I'd say it's no longer an initiative. It's what we do here in Orange, and everyone is on board, even through any hurdles that pop up. We all work really effectively together to make sure that, you know, we support the needs of all kids here in Orange Unified. We have core values here, and equity is one of them. So it's been wonderful to see that supported from the top down. Okay, then we're going to move on. So now we are going to talk about some of the outcomes here for inclusive programming in Orange Unified. Okay, so when we started with the SIP project, or supporting inclusive practices, that relationship began back in 2015. So it's great to know we've been working together this long. It's been a little while now, but we were originally identified here in Orange as a district that needed improvement. So, you know, we didn't start in a great place. We knew we had work to do, and they noticed that as well. But it began this great relationship that we have with SIP, and it has, of course, empowered us to focus more and work more on our inclusive practices here in Orange. What's really exciting that in the 2020-2021 school year, we were then identified as an exemplar district in the state, and we're really proud of the progress that we made. So we thank SIP, and we're always grateful for the partnership and moving this work forward. So this is our data. So our OUSD least restrictive environment, or LRE history. And I want to start out on this slide by talking about data is not our why. Meeting indicators, although important, is not our why. Student outcomes is our why. But looking at this data and monitoring it really leads to those amazing collaborative, productive conversations, which is why we in Orange pull our LRE, or least restrictive environment, data every single month. But you can see our trends here back in 2010, 2011. We were including students in the general education environment for 80% or more of their day at only a rate of 32%. And the last time we had an official poll, we were up to 49%, which was a really large increase in that period of time. And according to our own internal data, we're much higher than that now too. So we're really excited to get that next set of numbers from the state to reflect all that hard work. The next indicator is about 5B, students being included for less than 40% of their day. Back in 2010, 2011, we were doing that at a rate of 32.7%, and we have dropped that down to less than 15%. It just shows how many more students are accessing part of their day or more of their day in the general education setting, and we are so excited about those numbers. And then the last one is 5C, it's that separate school indicator or data. And back in 2015, we were at a 5.78% of students who went to a separate school. And now here we are at 3.38%. So we decreased that as well. We really believe in Orange about serving our students, keeping our students here in our comprehensive campuses, and really working together to meet their needs. So I recommend that, one thing that's really been effective and impactful here is looking at our LRE data every single month. It is those great conversation starters, right? It's that why. What are we doing for kids? How could we do better for kids? How can we improve their access to general education? We talk about it in site monthly meetings with every single one of our school sites. It's discussed at our monthly principal meetings. It's of course discussed here in the special education department because it's so important, and it leads to those really great conversations about how to continue to work together to increase access to general education. One other piece we're really proud of is our graduation rate here in Orange Unified. So in 2015, you can see that we were at about 76%. And in 2020, we were at close to 80% of our students with disabilities graduating with a diploma. We're one of the top performers in all of Orange County. And we're really proud of the work with our department and the partnership with our high schools to support kiddos in earning a diploma, which of course supports their life as they move into adulthood and opens more opportunities up for them. So we're really proud of this as well.
All right, so we want to conclude our presentation with our why. Here is why we do what we do at Orange Unified. When our district began our inclusion journey years ago, we dreamed big, but we started small. And however, our greatest accomplishment was how inclusion has benefited our students and the outcomes. Do we still need to grow, reflect, and set new goals? Of course we do. But nevertheless, the students are receiving the benefits of inclusion daily. So our students are developing that appreciation that everyone has unique characteristics and abilities. Our classrooms strive to provide a diverse and stimulating environment in which our students grow and learn. Our students are also developing that sense of belonging and individuality. So for example, if we look at the pictures here, we have students attending football games and just having fun. Again, it's going back to like those meaningful friendships for our students. They're not isolated anymore. They're, included in their community with their schoolmates and neighborhood peers. We go down here where we see the students in like a little group huddle working in front of an iPad. Once again, like it's just giving them those opportunities to really engage with each other and learn things from each other, but also build on their academic skills. That sense of individuality, we see the picture that is heart-shaped, and then a little above it, we see students dancing. Well, this student from a more restrictive environment was nominated to be winter formal corps. And we know that, in order to get nominated for this, it's not just for academics, but it's also for active participation in extracurricular activities, or being just a well-liked member of the school community and the community in all. So here we have, exciting that one of our students from a more restrictive environment being nominated for winter formal corps, and he's actually having fun at the school dance. And Verna Myers once said, that diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. So I feel like this picture really, sums up that. He's dancing with a girl from his high school, but it's not just, getting invited to dance. It's being at a football game. It's being on the golf team. It is working in the classroom with peers, with typical peers and friends that you see, in your neighborhood walking home. So this is just a great example of the benefits of our inclusion programming here at Orange Unified. And we're just really excited to be able to present, to all of you, the great things that are happening to our students here at our district.
Luckily, we have some time because we have lots of really great questions in the question and answer box right now. So I am just going to take a second and go down the list here. And I'm going to go ahead and start with, let me see. Here's an easy one. Does your district allow people to visit and tour the inclusive programs you have in place?
Yes, we do. We work with other districts who reach out and want a tour, which is wonderful. Of course, we're open to that. And we love to go visit other programs in other districts as well. We all learn from each other. So absolutely.
Okay, here is another question. How do you fit in time for co-planning when teachers have other meetings to attend, such as department unit planning meetings? And what do TOSAs do on a daily basis?
Okay, so yeah, our co-teachers absolutely do spend time working together. There are, a lot of meetings, such as departmental meetings and staff meetings and IEP meetings, but they do find time. Often, if they have a similar conference period, that's an excellent time to do that. If that can be built into the master schedule, I think that's the best option. But if not, they're committed to finding time before school, after school. Like we talked about earlier, they do meet with the TOSAs to help support that co-planning, kind of refinement, best practices and all that. And people are happily attending those sessions. They like the support and they like the collaboration. I think also someone asked about what do our TOSAs and instructional coaches do on a daily basis. Esmerelda, you can jump into this too, but we support teachers, we support classrooms, we can model lessons, we can deliver training, we can model something with a student, things like that. Anything else you want to add, Esmerelda?
Yes, we also we tremendously support our new teachers too. We really work almost every day with them just to make sure that we build up their skills as a new teacher, and also teach them, what is, inclusive practices, so we can continue developing that in our new teachers that, join our district.
Awesome. Okay, so along the co-teaching line, are there co-teaching classes for all the core classes at each of the middle and high schools in Orange?
Yes, that's something we work with our administrators on here. We all work together with site principals and make sure that that's built into the master schedules.
And as a follow-up to that, are there any other programs in place to develop social skills?
I'm wondering what, like, some of our staff are peers trained, so that's a social skills program. You know, we have staff members who do small group instruction and social skills. It can also happen in the classroom with the teacher. So yeah, there's a lot of options for social skills. We have counselors at all of our schools as well who could provide that as well, on an individual basis or on a group basis. We do have a lot of options here.
That's so great. So here's our next question. What are some of the apps that your district uses to collect data in the pre-K setting?
So we are piloting some teachers using an app called Catalyst right now, or a program called Catalyst for data collection, but we found that people really like to use Google. So that's another thing that they do. Everyone has an iPad in their classroom so that they can have it really easily to collect data. And then of course you have some people who are using paper and pencil as well, and then transfer the data into a digital format.
And what data collection methods are being used with iPads?
I think that's similar to what we just answered, right? But
Yes,
yeah,
so
Catalyst, a lot of people are using on the iPad, but then Google, right?
Perfect.
So like Google Forms, Google Docs.
All right. How do you foster and support natural peer supports across grades? I know we talked about that just in general, but how about across grades? Are there certain instructions embedded into the classroom?
So natural peer support, I think, honestly, it begins with, working and collaborating with our teachers in the classroom. It's building also their skills of how they can teach the skills to their student to facilitate natural peer support in the classrooms. And again, it's just giving them those small opportunities. Sometimes we encourage our teachers, if it's not in the classroom, begin out at recess, in order to be able to teach those skills to our students. So it's, like we said, it's just starting, like we always tell our teachers, baby steps, take it one small step at a time in order to build upon the support and the skills that our students need to be able to support each other.
Yeah, one other thing I might add is that obviously kiddos, right, like any kid, right, goes from one grade to the next with each other. So they've made those bonds, formed those relationships, and they take that with them throughout the grades, which is something that's really important to us here in Orange, as they, follow their natural feeder pattern, right? So going from elementary to middle school to high school together, there's that familiarity and that relationship. But I don't know if someone was asking across grade levels. So I have an example of that too. A wonderful teacher here in Orange, I remember very specifically, wanted to support her, I think it was third graders with disabilities and feeling really successful with their reading skills, which they had done a lot of hard work and had really worked on those skills and were doing great. And so she started a group with kindergartners. So these third graders with disabilities were actually transferring those skills and teaching kindergartners, typical gen ed kindergartners, how to read. So it offered, kind of cross grade level collaboration, friendships, and gave those kiddos an opportunity to feel really successful and pass on their skills.
Awesome. So here's a question about pulling in students' interests and passions. How do you convince teachers to utilize that curriculum, but also just be open and engage the students' interests and passions in their teaching?
Well, I mean, in that, I think it benefits any kiddo, right? If we can pull in what they're interested in to their learning, they're always going to be more engaged. So it's something that I think is a best teaching practice, regardless of special education or general education. And that probably means if working with the site principal and discussing that, making sure that's embedded into kind of the practices at the school site, maybe they can train on that. But, I think that's something that always engages kiddos more. So I don't think it's unique to special education, but a great practice in general.
All right, let's see. How do you encourage staff and teachers to attend trainings and welcome resources on inclusive practices?
Okay, I do. I think a lot of the time too is just, our instructional coaches are out in, a thing here was like you're out in the trenches, with the teachers, and it's like building that collaboration and also that relationship with our teachers. So, they really know that when, they come to our professional developments, they will be receiving, great information, but also it comes with that coaching support, the I do, we do, you do, and and that falls through, and those conversations. So I think that's how we encourage our teachers to come. A lot of the times too, when going back a little bit to the reluctance of teachers, is sometimes they're just afraid of the unknown, right? And it's having that someone, having a peer, a teacher peer with you in the classroom to help you through perhaps a difficult situation. If you have an inclusion student, with a behavior, just coaching our teachers through that has really opened, and facilitated the inclusive environments in our school. So I do think it comes down, to the administrative support from top down that we've had, the relationships that are within our school settings with our instructional coaches, our teachers, and administration.
One thing I'll add about PD or professional development or trainings is to, most of them are scheduled during our workday, right? So teachers have to attend, but most of the time they're very open and they want to. One thing that was exciting recently is that a specific school site asked us for a training. They wanted to know more about the identification process of students with disabilities and also some tips on behavior. The only time that the school schedule was kind of open to having this training was during the school day, but it was some time that was laid out for individual planning for these teachers. But there weren't any other options, and we wanted to be able to deliver this training to them because they had asked for it. So we scheduled it during this time. Only 30 minutes were required by the staff, although the training was scheduled for an hour to an hour and a half. After the first 30 minutes, the teachers had the right to choose to leave the training. And what was great, when you kind of meet the needs and the requests of a site, and it's engaging and informative, every single teacher chose to stay. So that was really a great kind of testament to teachers being open and wanting information so that it helps them inform their practices and their thinking.
Great, thank you so much. And we can tell that there's people that are really, really interested in what you have to say. Someone is asking, how often do you offer trainings, webinars for the public?
Thank you. That's a nice compliment. Not that often, but we're happy to participate when we are asked. And thank you so much for your feedback.
With just a few minutes left, I really like this one. How did parents receive the change and transition towards inclusion?
Really well, to be totally honest, which is really exciting. It's just what we do here in Orange, and parents are supportive of that. So that's great. If there's a hurdle for whatever reason, obviously the school administrator is happy to meet with that parent as well as the special education coordinator if need be, and to work through any kind of challenge that might arise. But in general here, we have a wonderful relationship with families who are supportive and want equity for all students here in Orange Unified.
Okay, so we've got time for one more. I'm going to kind of there's two questions that are similar. So the question really is, what's the program model for the students who aren't currently being included in that inclusive model? And how will you extend the approach to include everyone? Do you have a plan for that?
Okay, so for kiddos who maybe are not accessing most of their day in a general education setting, they may be accessing another program. We do believe that we need to have a variety of programming available to meet all students' needs. But the hope is, right, that in whatever programming they may be accessing, we're finding ways to build those opportunities for time with typical peers and inclusion. So you know, whether it's adding a little bit of a time of their day or looking at a shift in programming, that's always the intention. It's the discussion. And how do we write goals, create goals and supports to help kiddos make progress in whatever area may be holding them back for more time in general education to get them there. So it is a commitment from the whole team, and it is kind of the frame with which we look at supporting our students. And I'm sorry, Heather, what was the second part of that question?
It was about, you know, do you have a plan for including more of those students? How will you get them into your programs?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always something that's kind of at the core of what we're doing here in Orange. It's really near and dear to our heart. So, you know, yeah, of course, we'd love to just, you know, have everyone be in inclusion all day. But what we found is for some students, it actually doesn't meet their needs yet. And so we need to be open to any type of programming, but how do we continue to work towards that? I think is where we are here in Orange. We're always looking at that. We're always working towards that. And we're always collaborating as a team, including parents, on how, you know, kind of what setting best serves their student and how do we help them towards that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Esmerelda and Kassy. Thank you everyone for attending. It's lunchtime. Go ahead and join us in the social lounge or take your time and then come back and join us again in a little bit for our afternoon sessions. Thank you so much, everybody.